to look for the content. Now my project could be classified based on maybe class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4 contents. Okay, so this is just one example, one representation. You could do it multiple ways as well. There are multiple ways to do that, but this is one way which will give me a better visibility, better opportunity to establish a proper governance at a portfolio level, and thereby control what's going on in each of these projects and programs. Now, if you talk about operations, so operations will focus more on the ongoing activities. And operations will come into picture once we launch. So for example, once the application is built and it is launched, then the operations will come into picture. Until then, you are actually working within the project itself or a program. So project and operations may intersect. This is very important to understand actually. So we have seen a project. Now we have seen operations as well. Operation will come into picture once you launch the product or a service into market, and then you start supporting that, then you start making enhancements, or then you start supporting the customers, etc. So what is important here is that though operations team will take the full control once the product is in the market, but that intersection happens at multiple points. And which are those points where the intersection happens? One is of course when developing a new service or a product, you need to involve the operations team as well, so that they would know that something like, let's say, the web application is coming on their way for support. You could also do that when you improve the operation. So sometimes what happens when there is an existing application and then you're enhancing, so again you engage the operations team as well. Most importantly, at the end of the product lifecycle, there would be a proper handover between the project team and the operations team. So that handover has to happen properly, and we need to pass on all the relevant documents to them. And at the end of each phase closure, we need to also invite the operations team so that there is a proper handshake happening and they are not engaged only towards late in the project. So some of these things needs to be taken into consideration. So I hope this example must have given you a fair idea about program, project, and how a typical strategic plan initiate the launch of a program and a project. So project, program, and portfolio is clarified. So portfolio, which is typically at a strategic level. So this is where the collection of projects or programs happen. We have just taken one example here, and they are basically grouped together so that we can facilitate them effectively from overall governance and management point of view, which will ultimately help in achieving the strategic objective. So in earlier example, the strategic objective was to launch a new line of business. So that's how it is. Program is where we collect projects together, and they are definitely interrelated, or sometimes they are interdependent as well. But most importantly, they obtain benefits which are not available from individual components. So if you see, only the web application will not give you as much benefit as even when you add the Android app or iOS. So when they put together, then application development as a program will deliver much more benefits. Multiple interrelated projects needs to be run parallelly. So sometimes they are run parallelly, sometimes they are also dependent, right? So they could be run in series or they could also be run in parallel. Now, projects, they are generally dependent on each other and serve a common outcome. So if you see typically is that, let's say class 1 and class 2, there could be a bit of a dependency as well in terms of content, okay, a baselining or delivery for that matter. Or there could be a bit of a dependency between what you're developing as a web application and then Android and iOS. So generally that's what is observed within the project. So we need to ascertain what's that dependency level, and we need to manage that dependency level effectively as well when you are working on project and programs. All right, so moving from there altogether, so we just covered up what is a project, program, and portfolio, and we have taken one good example to classify this, to differentiate this, and as we progress, we are going to take more examples as well. So organizational project management. So if you see the OPM, so this is specific to the organization now we're talking about. Now this is a framework where we talk about project, program, and portfolio management. All this is integrated so that we can achieve the organizational objectives ultimately. And for that reason, it's basically integrated. How does this work? Now, if you think from the application point of view now, so you have project, program, portfolio management knowledge, and now you're applying it, and that's where the organizational objectives will come into picture. So you have a strategy, right? So we have taken example here that we have some strategy, which is launch a new line of business, all right? And then you decide the portfolio value decisions, Okay, then we have the business impact analysis is done, program and project results are delivered, operations will start here. Okay, the value performance analysis is carried out right from identifying the strategy, because value will start coming in only once you launch that line of business. So programs and projects will be a part of this section, and then there's a portfolio here. Okay, so what we need to understand is that same example you can apply here as well. So in order to achieve the strategic objectives of launching a new line of business, then obviously you are aligning with the portfolio, whichever the portfolio that you're working in. Then there are multiple projects and programs that you're running here. Okay, and once you complete those programs, you will be able to then deploy that to the production team or to the operations and support team. And once they are out in the market, then only the value will start coming in. Then you start measuring that value. So in the beginning itself, you create a sort of the business realization plan, or the business benefit management plan, and you try to measure the business benefit against that business benefit measurement plan. So this is more or less the same thing as what we covered earlier. Here we are just trying to put it in the form of OPAs. All right, so let's just move on to PMBOK guide now. Since we are just talking about PMP certification training here, so we need to also know a bit more about PMBOK guide and how the PMBOK guide is structured. So we did cover the high level structure, but there are a few more things that we need to know about PMBOK guide, especially at the component level, and at the same time, how these process groups, the knowledge areas, the processes, how they are aligned, how they are interlinked. So let's talk a bit more on these quickly. So I'm just going to take you through each and every component very quickly. So project life and phase. So what is project life cycle ultimately? Project life cycle is nothing but contains series of phases. You must have seen, for example, SDLC. So project life cycle, which is software development life cycle. All right. So when the software is built, we go through various phases. All right. So those phases